And we are continuing to follow the tragedy out of Uvalde, Texas. An 18-year-old wearing body armor shot and killed 19 students and 2 teachers inside an elementary school. The shooting at Robb Elementary becomes the 27th school shooting to happen in this country this year.
That's incredible. It's also the deadliest school shooting we have seen since Sandy Hook in 2012. Our state superintendent of schools, Chris Reykdal, was quick to release an emotional statement yesterday, urging people to not keep firearms in their homes, writing in part, "There is simply no debate. Our homes are safer when there are no guns inside of them."
And Chris Reykdal joins us live this morning here on King 5 Mornings. First, I got to ask you, I mean, you are both a parent and, of course, our state superintendent, but I got to ask you from a parental standpoint, your reaction when you heard about this shooting and the devastation in Texas yesterday.
Soul crushing. Sadly, we've lived through this before. So, my first reaction was to get home yesterday after a long day and hug my 2 children and have a very open conversation about it. Their reaction, their response, how they're feeling. And so we got right into that moment in space as a family to kind of reel together and then understand how it's impacting their mental health.
Yeah. Your quote is very poignant about guns in homes. I'm wondering, is that the biggest issue in your eyes in terms of solving this epidemic, really, of gun violence in America in our schools? Is it the guns issue that you feel is something we need to tackle right away? Is that number one for you?
It is for me, and I want to really explain this. We have been pushing for 4 or 5 years with mostly bipartisan support in the state, but sometimes it gets awfully partisan around some of the policy measures. But we now have threat assessment where we're evaluating, higher risk students with community teams. We have put significant resources into building safety. You know about our drills that we do on a monthly basis. We've done the policy steps that are quote unquote easy to try to avoid this. But in the last 2 cases, we've seen, young men access firearms, put body armor on, blow through armed officials who are there to protect. In the case of Texas yesterday, law enforcement was there. And in the case of the grocery store in New York, of course, there was an armed officer there. We are way beyond the what can we do incrementally in schools with this level of armed individual. And the reason I keep talking about firearms in the home is we know there are avid hunters and collectors, and no one, in my space, I'm not debating the right to own a gun. That's going to be enraging for weeks and months in this country. Mm-hmm. What I have to keep doing is being an educator and telling families, if you own a firearm in your home, you are statistically and dramatically more likely to lose your own life in a domestic violence dispute, to lose your own life to an accident, and sadly contribute to the 100 school-age children who take their own lives every year and die by suicide because there's a firearm accessible in the home. They just aren't safe in most homes.
Chris, every time something like this happens, my kids ask me, will this happen at our school? Are we, just as they're doing these active shooter drills, yes, you're going through that. And most of the time I say, no, honey, it's not going to happen. We just do this just in case. It's very rare. It's getting a lot tougher to really reassure them that that's not going to happen because we just don't know. Is what you're saying that, we're doing all we can to keep our kids safe and there's not much more that schools can do at this point?
There's always more you can do. And I think what we are constantly evaluating is how can we continue to add value to that without tipping the scale so that the anxiety and the risk to students exceeds the response of the intervention. So we're considered a pretty safe state with respect to how we're responding to those who are in mental health crisis, how we train our educators. There's always more you can do, but what I have to remind folks, and it's hard on a day like today, like where I have shed tears last night, this morning, and so have others. It's hard on a day like today where you want to acknowledge the lost lives and pray for the families in Texas. It is hard to tell folks that that is still a very rare event, but because we are living on social media where every time it happens anywhere in the country, it feels so constant. The probability in this state of a lost life is 10, 15 times greater by suicide when young people access a gun than it is to any kind of school shooting. It is still extremely rare, and there's more we can do always, but it is still extremely low probability at this point in time.
Yeah, such an important point there about the suicide rate as well. You know, as we mentioned, this happens over and over again in other places until one day you wake up and it's just not, and it's just in your town. And it's just something so scary to think about, something we have to think about today. Chris Reykdal, Superintendent of Public Schools, thank you so much for weighing in on this very somber morning today.
Thank you, Chris.